short introduction to Matt. So Matt is the founder of Verge, and he's been running his own studio for 14 years, and he's specialized in logo and brand identity, typography, murals, and illustration. So take it away, Matt.
Thank you very much. This is the clicker. It's amazing to be here. I am so stoked for the next 30 minutes that I get to share with you two of my most favourite things in the world, and that is craft beer. How good is beer? And typeface design, lettering, logos, visual identity, all that stuff rolled into one. Now, I have got a jam-packed presentation that is filled with so many slides, 100 to be precise, so we have to move at a fast pace. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to present to you my 12 beer babies. And I'm proud to announce that one of them only arrived just last week. So, coochie coochie coo to you. Well done. Made it to the list. Now, I affectionately refer to them as my beer babies because so much love, passion and energy has gone into crafting every single one of them. And for any of you parents out there that have children, you'll know despite them having this coming from the same DNA, they're also completely unique. So it's been my job over the years is to take on board these weird and wonderful briefs and tell, express their brand values through my visual storytelling. But it's important to the story to just do a little backstep and tell you how I got to this place. So back in 2007 is when I first decided to start Verge. I had a pretty cushy job, but I wasn't really satisfied with what I was doing. So I started Verge, and it just so happened to coincide with the GFC. All my work completely dried up. I was invisible to the world. I had a second child on the way, and to make matters worse, that was my logo. Peace, guys. So this was my clueless phase. And why was it clueless? Because when I was invisible, I was wasting my time creating nonsensical, silly little memes. I wasn't even on social media at that time, so I was just creating these things. And look, what was I trying to say to no one that was listening? That I'm bigger than Ben-Hur? I don't think so. So it was simple. I had to make a plan. Otherwise, I was going to run out of all of my savings very quickly. And that was pick my passion, and that was logo and visual identity, brand identity. That's what I wanted to do. I wasn't interested in designing websites or any other graphic design tasks. It was just logos and visual identity. Obsess on execution. Everything that I was going to put forward to a client had to be the best version of me. I set the bar really high with everything that I was going to do. If I didn't love it, or I didn't think the client loved it, or it didn't undoubtedly answer the brief, I would not pass it on. Over-deliver, especially in the early stages. There's nothing wrong with over-delivering. Why? Because clients are going to then use you again. They're going to talk about you. They're going to see the value. They're going to refer you to other people. So that's what I did with my presentations. And then also it gives you more opportunity to share more with the world. So I jumped online and on all the social things, and I shared it with the world. And, you know, sites like Dribbble, Behance, and later Instagram. In no time, you would start getting, follow-up business. So these are the kind of presentations that I was putting together, just very quick snapshots. A lot of energy was put into the construction of the marks, illustrating to the clients how I created the marks, stationery. No one uses stationery anymore, but it always looked good in a presentation. Beautiful colors, the thought process and methodology behind the concept of the marks as well, because if you just show a client a logo, they're going to say to you, well, what else have you got? And then you're just creating a lot of concepts for them to choose on. So I put a lot of thought and energy into selling the concept, the solution. So in no time, I was designing logos, and I was sort of recognized as a logo guy. So exploration, if you focus on visual identity, that's your what you do. Every now and then you're going to get a brief, and that brief might dictate a completely different style that's outside of your hitting zone. And one day I got this brief, and I thought, this client needs a lettering style logo. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the very, very, very first lettering style logo I ever created. And it changed the trajectory of my workflow enormously. I mean, obviously it's pretty shabby, but because I was, had a bit of a following online, this led to my next logo. And as you can see, my lettering skills really came forward in leaps and bounds, and that's sarcasm. But luckily, my vectoring skills were a little bit better than my lettering skills at that point in time. So, off the back of those two logos, I just received so many inquiries to focus on that. And this was kind of right around the cusp of the resurgence of the lettering movement that happened about, 10 years ago or so. And so during that period, I started to really embrace the process. So what do I mean by that? Like the different pens that you can buy, the thick tips, the hard tips, soft tips, the chisel tips, the ruling pens, all of them had their own magical power that created a different sort of style by wielding them. Not every pen did the same sort of thing. So I really embraced the process, and you can see the transitions in these strokes here are a little bit unique because of the nature of the soft tip. And what better way to present to a client called Blue Water by writing it with blue water. So I also obsessed on the art of calligraphy, brush pen calligraphy, refining my skills to get the results organically by a flick of the wrist. And then I started working for Spotify, doing thousands of titles for all of their musicians for the video content that they put forward. And when it came to logos, 99.999% of the time, I would craft the typeface from the ground up for a couple of reasons. One, I found it a better way to infuse the values of the clients through illustrating and designing the letter forms rather than scrolling through hundreds of fonts until I found something that matched. And plus, it was more fun. And it also gave the client something unique to them. And so over time, I was creating all sorts of logos, experimenting with styles, and I really refined my act down. And any opportunity that I did get to do a design with a lettering style, there were so many options to just show different emotions and different styles with the way that you creatively change the way you approach it. So this became my passion, and I was doing it for all sorts of clients, all sorts of industries, from fashion labels to gyms to finance sector to musicians, so many, concrete plumbing, pumping. There were so many, but there was one missing from that. So it's time to bring on the beers, ladies and gentlemen. How good would it have been if they brought out beers? They came flooding in with beers when I said that. But okay, so Black Hops is fair. It's fair to say this is where it all really kicked off for me. This is the first brewery that entered into the bottle shops, and it's the most popular of the breweries that I've done work for. Who was Black Hops? That was their logo before me. They were three guys, three mates in Burleigh is their tagline, and one of them was a brewer, and they decided to have a red hot go of starting a brewery. And when they came to me, they said this was their logo, which was simply, Black Hops is a pun on Black Ops, which is a military term. It's a PlayStation, Xbox game, so I believe, and they just Googled military-style fonts, and that was it. But they had a little bit of a problem. They knew it wasn't going to cut it, if they became big, and I believe they were going to become big, just by the way, their enthusiasm. That wasn't going to cut it. So they came to me and they wanted something a little bit more crafted. But actually, I've got to read this out. This was part of their brief because they weren't going to turn their back on the military angle. They said they wanted something true to their brand, being military, but also to be the complete opposite. That's an oxymoron if I've ever heard it. So what was I going to do? So I had a good, long, hard think about that. And I think what they were just trying to say is that they were still going to honour the whole military side of things, but they needed to make it more approachable to a wider audience. So the first thing I started doing was I started experimenting with the brush pens, and just to see if there was some sort of fluid movement that I could sort of capture that wasn't completely turning its back on it, not too feminine, but had some energy. And so this was the very Instagrammable photo that I set up, the composition for, and this is what I showed the client. And they absolutely loved the script. They thought, wow, that's completely not what I was expecting to get, but we do really like it. But they wanted to see another concept that was a little bit more masculine. And so I did the one on the right. And it became a little bit too medieval, but they really liked it. But they thought this is just going to put them in the same spot as the other logo. So they said to me, Matt, can you actually design, keep the script, but add a military motif into the logo? So I came up with that chevron, which isn't in fact a recognised military chevron. I wanted it to be something that I created and unique to them, but it does show that it is a military icon. As soon as they saw that, they absolutely loved it. This is the logo suite, because not one size fits all. And can I have a show of hands of everyone that's built a font family of at least 4 to 8? Yeah, there's a few. Give yourself a pat on the back, and the rest of you, give them a round of applause, because this nearly broke me. I had been creating Dissimo at the time. They didn't have enough in their budget to get me to do this. But for 3 years, I'd been creating this in the spare time, and I decided that I wanted, there it is, you can go to my website and check it out. I wanted the whole can to be me. I wanted absolutely every single bit, well, you can't say pixel, but every square millimetre of that to be my design decisions. It's an obsession, I don't know why, but that's why I chose to break out Dissimo before it was launched on Black Hops. And so this is their core range beers, and they won gold at the first beer awards for the packaging design for that. So it was a good start, which is what then led on to a lot of other projects in this industry. Sick Puppy. What is Sick Puppy? A bit of an ambiguous name there, because Sick Puppy, what is it? Is it a puppy that's fully sick? Or is it a, oh, you're a sick puppy? Can't believe I did that. Or is it a puppy that just got sick? And it was the latter. The story goes, the owners, the brewers, their dogs, or their puppies, got stuck into a bag of hops. And hops are extremely poisonous for dogs. And they found their puppies, they were bull mastiffs, killed over, pretty lifeless. They raced them to the hospital the vet, and they got their stomachs pumped, but luckily they survived. So thank God for that, because Dead Puppy would have been a shocking name. Now, that was their logo before they came to see me, and they may as well have been called Dead Puppy, because that dog looks miserable. But look, I'm not slagging on any past logos. Look, there are things that I was going to take away from this logo, and that was the fact that it was kind of like an open emblem sort of logo. And I decided to carry those spurs that you see on the S to the and P to come up with this, which was a bit more of a vibrant, a bit more of a statement. The master logo was the one on the left, and the dog looks happy, because if you had a puppy that was looking sick, I mean, it's not going to work. But there's a nod to the story with the hop that's on its tongue. And I don't know if you can notice that the logo on the left there, is it your left? Yep. That hop in the middle is actually a dog paw as well. So just a nice little duality there. Good boy. So with this can design, I wanted everything to be hand-drawn again, just because I wanted it to sort of reflect the art of, craft beer, tap into that ethos. This was the flat lay of one of their core range beers, and so absolutely every single detail was hand-drawn for that, which was a nightmare vectorizing it, because when you scan things in and do an image trace, it gives you the most ghastly little pathwork. So I went through and fixed all that up. So this is their core range, and that brings us to Sunday Road. Okay, Sunday Road. What is Sunday Road? Sunday Road is that road you go on a drive, to go on an adventure on a Sunday. It's that bicycle ride. It's that walk through a national park. They're situated next to the Royal National Park in Sydney. It's the surf you go for with your mates. And then at the end of the day, you're with your family or your friends, and you raise a glass and you go, what a cracking day that was. Let's have a beer. So that's, in a nutshell, what Sunday Road is. And that was their logo before they came to see me. And it didn't work for one reason. Again, I'm not slagging any of these logos, but because it's landscape in its nature, it doesn't fit on the portrait shape of a can or a bottle. So it's much better to go for a squarish or portrait if you want more brand prominence. But I did like what they did with the mono-weighted, and I was going to carry that mono-weighted sort of style through it and the adventure of the S and the R. But I thought, why not do it to all the letter forms and connect everything together? It's like it's leaning into that whole, it's a pathway, and the adventurous ascender that is a flourish that goes around the saying, walk the path. And I don't know if you can see the terminals. They've got a bit of a rounded, they're a rounded terminal, almost like a cul-de-sac. You got to the end of your path and you go, that's great, let's go back again. And I think I can thank Wayne Thompson for picking up on that little note. I asked him to go through a couple of my logos and I said, what do you see when you see these? So anyway, good pick up there, Wayne. So these are this is the process. The Instagrammable photo on the left was the very last sort of sketch that I did, and then I brought it in and vectorized it. And you can see some grids there that help me work out the symmetry and the balance of the logo. But it's important to note, as good as grids and guidelines are, I'm a firm believer that the eye has the final say. So that's the core range cans and how they turned out. They did want to see another concept as well, and this is the power of letterforms, isn't it? Like, I did the one on the right, and I like it. I think it's great, but it just didn't. It just presents as a completely different feeling and vibe. It's a bit more country-like. So I'm glad they went with the one on the left. All right, great hops. Technically, this was the first brewery that I designed a logo for, but they took a little while to get started. Mainly because he's an actual dentist, and in his spare time, he was creating this wonderful pub in Armidale that's an airport hangar, and he spent 10 to 20 years collecting all these really interesting artifacts and vintage paraphernalia that fills the whole entire brew house. And I don't know if you've noticed in the background there, and no, not the Chinese restaurant sign, but that's a fire truck that backs in to the airport hangar and you can pull beers from it. So was I going to design a minimalistic style logo for this, or something that was really perfect with its curves and transitions? No. This one, I felt I needed to tap into something that was more hand-drawn, more that perfect imperfections, and almost like it's an old hand-painted sign that's been worn down over years. And I had to draw some really fun illustrations for their core range beers for this. And if you look too long at that Banshee on the bottom right, she'll get you. But I don't know why, but all the other icons look like they're half-baked. But that bull just is not having fun. Anyway, so I'll explain very quickly. When you're starting out with a brewery, to get cans printed, it's really expensive. There's a few options, but I'll just tell you what I put forward to my clients, that we spent the extra to get generically printed cans, which is direct to the can, and it's a minimum order of 70,000 that you can get. So it doesn't make sense to add 70,000 to each one of those beers, that they're just not going to go through at low volume. So you get the generic printed cans, and then you do a sticker system and you wrap that around it. So it makes them look professional, but also craft at the same time. So that is the can designs for there. And like the pub, I wanted the cans to be interesting to look at, something to discover every time that you held the can. Slipstream, oh my God, there's so many of them. Slipstream, if I threw the kitchen sink at those others, I threw the whole house at this one. This was a very special one for me. They came to me, that's not the one I did. They came to me and they couldn't afford me at the start. And then I found out a year later that they were just brewing amazing beers. So I approached them again to congratulate them on the amazing beers and said to them, well, let's work something out. And so we did. So I started, okay, so this is my process. I would have loved to have shown you a video, but it would have eaten into too much of the time. But what I do is, once I start sketching something down and I start to find something, this was probably the first sketch that I did once I took on board the brief and I had an idea of what I was going to do and brain dump. I then get a sheet of paper and I put it over the top of it, and then I trace over it again. And then I fix up some of the spacing, some of the kernings. You can see on the S there, I decided to go for a more conventional S than a script style S. And then I do it again until I really start to see something that's Instagrammable. And then I took this photo, and back when Instagram liked photos, and ended up with this. So how do I explain my process for this? It's really hard, actually. I guess the key word for this is effortless. Just like, a slipstream is that pocket of air behind a moving object that cyclists get in to use 33% less energy and stuff like that. I really wanted to create letter forms that felt effortless and really fluent and that flowed from one transition into the next, which is where you see those ink traps. So that was in 2016, and I think before they became a really big trend. But I'm not suggesting I started it. But it also helped functionally on the cans because it's reduced down to a small size, so that's where the ink traps came into play. But that P is one of my favourite Ps, and the ST ligature was what I wanted to achieve to show movement, but it was challenging to get that RN, but it all came together. So this is the logo suite, and also the custom illustrations and calligraphy that I created for this brand. And for me, this is probably my favourite can when they were in the sticker phase. It was very ambitious because there were a lot of things going on. Like there was the custom calligraphy for the name of the beer, the illustrations, the vertical logo. We ended up going straight to cans once they grew in size. We could afford to do that, and that was that. All right, Revel. We're on to Revel now. Revel's my favourite client. I didn't just say that out loud because you can't say that about any of your children. I'll get in trouble for saying that from the others now too. But no, they send me a lot of beer, so I do like Revel. This Revel was malt before they came Revel, and they got it. It took us 3 months to get to this stage, and it was in the 11th hour and 59th minute before they were about to launch, within a week, that they got a cease and desist letter saying you couldn't change, you couldn't use the word malt. So we had to pivot in 5 days. What took us 3 months, we did in 5 days, and it was a serendipity moment because I think Revel is a much better name and brand to promote their story and brand values. So I could have used Roboto condensed for Revel Brewing, but no, everything has to be Matt Vagotis. So I used a font that I created for Spotify a couple of years prior, which later turned into Janko, which does have big trendy ink traps infused into it, and that is their core range selection of beers. I'm getting thirsty looking at that. Alrighty, Easy Times. What is Easy Times? Easy Times is good times, good vibes, sundowners. It's this shirt. So for me, when I brain dumped, when I read the brief, I came up with this one on the right here. That was the first thing. And what I was trying to do was create something that was fun and relaxed. And I think I've achieved that through the connectivity as well of some of those ligatures, the A and the S and the E and the S are nice relationships, and the Y and the T, and the way that tittle is nestled in the crossbar of the T. It bounces up and down from the baseline and X height just to promote a bit of fun. But the problem with this part was fine. Once I knew I had this, I thought, I have the logo, how's the rest of the can going to look? And this was, the problem with this is, okay, it's in Woolloongabba, which is right next to the famous stadium where like huge sporting events go down, and thousands of people are going to flood in and out of their brewery before and after events. But the brief that I originally got, lovely couple, they were such nice people, but the brief was very personal to his story in life. He liked bluebirds, he liked music, he wanted to see a skull on the can, he was quite spiritual. There was something about Rasta in there, I can't remember exactly. So I really nailed his brief, but I wasn't doing my job because I should have told them, no, we need to tap into the local community here. They're not going to get this. So let's keep it simple, right? The stadium is right behind the brewery, and they've got these towering floodlights. Let's make an E&T monogram. That makes much more sense. So we changed it to this, and you can see the lights towering over the pub just there. So that was going to tap into the local community a lot more than the Bluebird. and that colour palette is a sunset colour palette just to, you know, tap into the whole sundowners. All right, Savage, we're getting there, guys. Savage, his surname is Savage, and I thought, well, it's still got to reflect a savage motion when I write this. And I did the one that's on the bottom right here first, but that was all that clean, perfect curves that I'd been doing for everything else. And I thought, what's one way of making this even more savage? So I said, screw you, curves, I'm going to make you angular. And that icon up the top right hand is the geometry behind creating all of those angles. So that was savage. And Burley Barrels is sadly no longer with us, but I wanted to show you this one very quickly because I had to draw a whole heap of fun illustrations that if all of you that are travelling, if you get down to the Gold Coast, go to Burley Heads on a Sunday. It is such a great vibed place to go. But I don't always infuse lettering into every single project. I wanted this to be a fallback on, you know, one of those creative marks. In this case, this is a Burley barrel and the famous the Burley barrel wave and a beer barrel. So the last one, Scarborough Harbour, like Revel, they were a different name, Harbour Master. They had to change. The master logo is the one on the left, and I also did the mono-weighted script there to almost feel like rope because they, you know, they're at a harbour, beautiful location in Brisbane, and we tapped into that marina sort of vibe with this, even though these photos are taken on the beach. Alrighty, I've been talking just about how I've crafted the visual identity for the breweries. This is where the breweries have a little bit more fun, and they turn their back on their brand, and they make it all about the beer. These are the limited release can designs where it's all about the flavors, the Frankenstein flavors that they might come up, or the traditional styles that they'll come up with to do, you know, anywhere between 1 or 2 of them a month to give to their craft beer audience. So they turn their back on their brand and they make it all about the beer. So there's every single one of them is custom illustrated and custom lettered or calligraphy or typeface design. Because again, I get a lot of fun out of doing it myself rather than picking fonts that might save me a stack of time. I guess it's my way of really enjoying the process. So this is one of my favourite series of limited release beers. This was a road trip that the owners went on where they went through all the different states. Again, all custom lettering and all custom illustrations that I spent a lot of time putting together, but it was a lot of fun tapping into each one of those states. Okay. So here, this was a birthday beer series that I did for Revel. You can see up the top there, they're all the sketches. I'm still very much just pens, paper, illustrating. I haven't graduated to an iPad yet, but I've been told it will save me so much time, so it's still to come. But an interesting one to talk about very quickly here is that middle one. Now, they gave me creative free rein with this one because originally they just wanted a couple of boysenberries on it. It's a boysenberry milkshake IPA. But I said, guys, aren't we missing something here? Because my milkshake IPA brings all the boysenberries to the yard. So, yes, that was it. So, yeah, a lot of fun. These are a lot of fun. You can see their expression. You know, these letter forms, I mean, how did I write them? All I had to do was tap into the psycho little guy that I drew there. I even surprised myself with that one. Don't look at him for too long either. And then this is the last one, Cola Wave Sour. This is more illustration than lettering, but you can see had I have gone with the option on the right, it would have been too close to something else. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is my extended beer family, all my children and grandchildren. A couple of black sheep are missing, but every family's got one. But look, so much love and passion has gone into designing from the base all the way to the top. Every little nuance of changing the anatomy of a letter form has really been my way of communicating their story and the beer story. Just like a musician has an instrument, a poet has words, or a brewer has beer. Designing typefaces, letter forms has been my voice and my way of telling a story. So, guys, thank you very much. Drink responsibly. I'm done. Thank you. Did I go over?
You absolutely perfect.
Okay,
And I think in apropos style, if you've got questions for this gentleman right here, buy him a beer later on today, or maybe you'll bring some from Revel. I don't know. But we are at time for the break. That was amazing. Thank you so much. Beautiful work. Honestly, I think one of the things that really struck me, just one little note about that, was when you were talking about the symmetry and structure. My favorite phrase of this was, the eye always has the final say. And I just think that's such an important thing to remember, that as much technical structure as we bring to things, it is that last check of like, does it really feel right and look right? And I thought it was great that you were really focusing in on it. Thank you so much. All right, another hand for Matt, please. We are now going to take another short break, 30 minutes. We'll be back for more talks at 11:30. Grab some coffee, have some water, keep hydrated, keep awake, enjoy yourselves, and we'll see you back here soon.